Hughes, Honorable Parliamentary Secretary Mr. Merrick Richardson, Directors of NW Anguilla Property Limited, Ms. Jackie Doak, Mr. Jim Lammers, both of whom are at the head table, and Mr. Mark Van de Velde in the audience. Also acknowledging the presence of Mr. Dolan, the resort manager at Four Seasons. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, it is my pleasure to welcome all of you to this ceremony for the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding between the Government of Anguilla and NW Anguilla Property Limited in relation to the Four Seasons Resort. The Four Seasons Resort is a flagship property here in Anguilla. It occupies approximately 35 acres, comprises 32 guest rooms, 103 private residences, condominiums, and townhouses, and 31 two-story villas, along with restaurants, spa, and other supporting amenities. This property was acquired by NW Anguilla Property Limited in July of 2022. And the arrangement between NW Anguilla Property Limited and the Government of Anguilla was governed by a previous MOU which was assigned to NW Anguilla Property Limited. So NW Anguilla Property Limited has for the past 2 years been undertaking several upgrades to the Four Seasons property, and an additional investment of approximately $60 million is planned. So we are pleased to have completed the negotiation of the new MOU with NW Anguilla Property Limited, and we are so thankful to all of you for joining us for this momentous occasion. We have several persons at the head table who are going to be speaking this afternoon. So I turn over immediately to the Honorable Premier and the Minister of Finance and Economic Development for his remarks. Premier.
Thank you. Protocol already established. Good afternoon and welcome. P.S. Thank you for that lead-in. Certainly, this is a great occasion for us here in Anguilla. Back when we know that Four Seasons was under the ownership of Starwood Capital, and they were willing to sell, and we wanted to have a partner, because we consider DOT and NW Properties to be a partner, because in Anguilla, good corporate citizens are ones that help to develop the people along with the investment that they get involved with. And I must say from day one, when we met the principals of NW Property, which is part of DOT, which is out of the Cayman Islands, we decided to do evaluation. And we talked to persons in the Cayman Islands. And from what we heard from government officials, business persons, even competitors, and it always seemed that the same came back, that DOT was a good corporate citizen, that they looked out for the people, they did great investment, and they were always looking to how they could help and how they could promote the country that they were in. And so we felt that this was an important achievement, that they came and they bought the what is now the Four Seasons property down there in Meads Bay. Certainly, we've been negotiating for the time to get to this point where we can sign the new MOU, because as the Permanent Secretary said, they were operating under the old MOU that was signed with Starwood Capital for the Four Seasons back in 2015. And even before that, the MOU was present. There have been some upgrades in the MOU, all in keeping with what this administration has seen as necessary, that the people of Anguilla also benefit from having investors and developers coming into Anguilla. But I think that what has been important is that the Four Seasons property has continued to function like it did, even better. And so that was important to us, that the project would continue to provide the luxury tourist services that it always did, and with the upgrades that have been ongoing and the projected upgrades which the MOU addresses. And we know that this will continue to be one of the best facilities for touristic purposes in Anguilla. And I know that Minister Hughes will talk a little bit about the social contribution, but I just want to say that one of the clauses in the MOUs that we sign and have signed and will sign, there is a social contribution that is written into the MOU. And in this case, we know that when we discussed with Jackie and Mark and the others, Jim and Tom, I don't see Tom here today, but it was like, okay, what do you need? And we said what we needed, and they were very happy to commit to it. And even though we didn't require that it be committed to on paper till we got to the substantial MOU, which will be signed today, they committed in a letter to what they wanted to do to enhance culture in Anguilla. And so I must say that as the Premier, as the Minister for Finance, Health, and especially for Economic Development, that I am proud to have this relationship and partnership with DOT, NW Properties. And I think it bodes well for Anguilla as we move forward, because they are committed for the long term. They are not here to flip it, as we say. You know, they're here to be here. And that's what's important. So I want to thank everyone, Jackie, Jim, Mark, the rest of the gang for what you have done and continue to do for Anguilla, for the Four Seasons property, for the people of Anguilla, for culture in Anguilla, and we know for the future, because that is what's important as we move forward. So thank you again. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy that we got to the point where we, negotiated all that we needed to, and now we get the signing, so we continue to move forward. And I want to thank you. I want to thank the National Investment Committee, what we used to call Trade and Investment, Permanent Secretary Chanel Petty-Barrett, Jamil Harrigan, who was with us, but he took a brief, hiatus, because we expect that after this sabbatical he'll be back. I want to thank Sean Hodge for filling in now and helping us to get this to the finish line. Ministerial Assistant Courtney Morton, and the ministers, of course, Minister Hayden Hughes, Minister Deanne Kentish-Rogers, Minister Kinsia Gomes-Marie, Minister Kenneth Hodge. This has been, I think, an effort that has drawn all of us in, and I can say that the product itself will show that when you have this concerted effort and everybody is on the same page, you get great things done. So thank everyone for coming out, the media, public relations, Ivan, and is it Shaz? I get it right every now and then. Thank you all, Parliamentary Secretary. Certainly, my personal attorney from the AG Chambers, well, we say he belongs to the Ministry of Finance, Economic Development, and Health, Mr. Tion Tross. He is here today. But he's done a lot of work with us, and he continues to be our go-to guy to make sure that the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed, and that we are protected, from those who are after us. So thank you again, and back to you, PS. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Premier. And I must add that when it comes to social covenants, the Premier is always very adamant about ensuring that there is a commitment from the developers in relation to the give back to the community. And I'm sure that those who work in the Trade and Investment Unit can attest to that. So we are very pleased that NW Anguilla Property has indeed lived up to the expectations in relation to the social covenant and commitment. We'll give Mr. Hodge the floor next, Minister Kenneth Hodge. Minister Hodge is filling in. I shouldn't say filling in. He's the Minister of Home Affairs, but he is acting in the capacity as Minister of Social Development because the Honorable Deanne Kentish Rogers is currently overseas on official business. Minister Hodge.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Chair. Protocol already established. I wish to extend greetings from the Honorable Minister of Social Development and Culture, Deanne Kentish Rogers, who is off island at this time. It is therefore my distinct pleasure as the Acting Minister of Culture to bring some brief remarks at this signing ceremony. It was Benjamin Franklin, one of the founding fathers of the United States, who coined the phrase, "Well done is better than well said." This quote encapsulates the idea that actions speak louder than words, and that it is more important to follow through on promises than to simply talk about them. So here we are today. The Honorable Minister Deanne Kentish Rogers made a promise for a new state-of-the-art cultural center for Carnival 50 this year, and the DART group, who are represented here today by directors Jackie Doak, Jim Lammers, and Mark Van de Velde, have made that promise come true in a very tangible way. Jackie, Jim, Mark, all of Anguilla owes the organization an eternal debt of gratitude for this social contribution to the people of Anguilla through this magnificent edifice, which will last for generations to come. I wish to thank designer Courtney Moten and the technical staff at MOU for the efforts in bringing forth such a beautiful design. To the contractors, GT Construction and Leeward Construction, thank you for your dedication to bringing this project out of the ground and where it is today, a proud monument in the Valley community. I close with Colossians 3:17. We are to thank God in every word and action. Whatever you do in word or deed, do all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him. Speak every word in gratitude and do everything with a thankful heart. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Hodge, for your remarks. And we invite next Minister Hayden Hughes, the Honorable Minister of Infrastructure, to give his remarks.
Thank you very much, PS, my former classmate, schoolmate. Today is really a proud moment because it isn't often that we have developers, investors that come to our shows that are willing to really contribute to the social, economic, and physical infrastructure for the people of Anguilla. It isn't often. Most developers that come to our shows over the past 50, 60, 70 years have come to take and not necessarily to give. But from the very outset, when DART came to Anguilla, they not only came to invest, but they also came to give. And I had the privilege of meeting Jackie and Mark very early, and I was really impressed with what they had to say about Anguilla, what their plans were, the fact that they wanted to be here for the long term and not to flip and run when things got difficult. I also had occasion to visit the Cayman Islands on an unrelated trip, and I had the privilege of having to be driven around by Jackie. And she showed me some of her properties there, and also gave me an eyeful of the social projects that DART had invested in and developed in the Cayman Islands, and I was so impressed, really impressed. I could not believe that any developer would be investing in so much social infrastructure in any particular country. And so when the Honorable Minister Deanne Kentish Rogers made a pronouncement that it would be the last time that we will be celebrating our summer festival in the Old Lands and Bowl Cultural Center, an idea peaked. And when that idea peaked of how we could fund this facility, and the idea was placed to DART more so in the laps of Jackie. And No hesitation. None whatsoever. It wasn't a situation where she said, well, you know, you got to give this in order to get that. It was no hesitation. Let's get it done. And I have found that from the team at DART from the very onset. No hesitation. What can we do to enhance the lives of the people of Anguilla? And that is unique. But I also believe that is unique because Jackie is a Caribbean girl. You know, having been born in Jamaica and raised in the Caribbean, she's culturally tied to the people. And I always believe that the Caribbean people are one people, wherever you're found. So I just want to say on behalf of a grateful, grateful nation, don't let the noise fool you. Don't let the folks who are screaming fool you. I can tell you that the people of Anguilla is eternally grateful, and I just wish that Dizzy would have been around to see it. He passed just recently, and I just want to recognize that. But Anguillians are grateful for this significant contribution. This is the largest contribution that any developer have granted to the people of this country. And I often say that regardless of who is in office today, we can't take it home and take it in our backyards when the election comes in 2035 and we are voted out of office. And note I said 2035, because this is going to be with the people of Anguilla for the next 100 years. If you can imagine that the old Lansing Bowl Cultural Center that so many persons have contributed to lasted so long, imagine a facility of this magnitude with the type of engineering and steel and concrete and the PSI and what have you that have gone into this facility, the type of controls that have gone to this facility. Imagine how long this will last. Long beyond our time on this earth, that facility will be there to celebrate. And I want to see a big plaque somewhere etched in stone that says contributed by DART, because we tend to forget quickly how these things occur. And so 30 years from now, 40 years from now, 50 years from now, those who have come behind us must look back and say, this is when it happened, and this is who contributed to it. So again, all I want to say is thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. And now we turn over to Ms. Jackie Doak for her remarks.
Thank you very much, Premier, Minister Hodge, Minister Hughes. I appreciate that introduction and the storytelling and background that you have already provided. And yes, I was born in Jamaica, although my accent doesn't share that with you today. Moved to Cayman and then all over a bit, so my accent is very neutral, but my roots are very Caribbean. Our home is in the Caribbean, and we're delighted to be here today with you all. Our first visit to Anguilla was in 2015, and we were really, really impressed with the island. From the arrival at the airport to the journey to the property, from traveling around the island, visiting the restaurants, the stores, and just meeting the people of Anguilla. And the level of hospitality that we encountered was warm and welcome all over the island. Without a doubt, the people of Anguilla make you know how to feel very special, and it's in their DNA. Hospitality is truly in your DNA. When the property became available in 2022, as Premier said, we're absolutely excited about the opportunity to acquire the Four Seasons Anguilla, given our previous experience and understanding the level of excellence on the island. And since acquiring the property, we have made a number of small but important improvements, including the landscaping, the entrance, various common areas, and we are in the process of finalizing a new staff canteen where our teams can relax, enjoy their meals between the breaks, and importantly, be inspired by their surroundings while on property. We have also created a long-term strategic enhancement and enrichment program and anticipate investing over $60 million in the next 3 years. That includes major renovations. Thank you. That includes major renovations to the property, expansions of our restaurants, food and beverage offerings, renovating guest rooms, renovating the villas, and creating a new spa facility. And in addition to those investments over the next 3 years, as with the hospitality industry, we will every 7 to 10 years be continuing to upgrade the property because we have to keep it to the level of excellence that our customers expect in the luxury hospitality industry. And with these early improvements and the extraordinary efforts of the management and the broader Anguilla Four Seasons team, we received the Forbes 5-star rating, an endorsement of the property and the exceptional experiences that the Four Seasons team deliver on a day-to-day basis. Thank you, Cahal. DART has a large global hospitality portfolio, and we're proud to say that in the Caribbean, we now have 3 Forbes 5 stars in our portfolio. We have the Ritz-Carlton Grand Cayman, the Kimpton Seafire and Resort Grand Cayman, and now the Four Seasons Resort and Residences in Anguilla. So we're very proud of that accomplishment. But as extraordinary as the properties may be, as we know, at the end of the day, it is the people that bring the resort to life. The experiences they deliver and the memories they help create for our guests, who then will return over and over again. And in addition to our hospitality investments, DART has a strong history of investing in the communities. And as Minister Hughes was able to see firsthand, the investments that we've made in the communities in the Cayman Islands over the last 30 years, and the investments that we have already started here in Anguilla, whether through youth development, sports, community spaces, or educational initiatives, our commitment to the next generation is very, very strong. Some examples of what we've done since the acquisition 2 years ago in July of 2022 include an Inter-Milan soccer training camp for 30 children who participated in last year's camp. And this year, we will have over 40 participants in the Inter-Milan soccer training camp. And alongside our Cayman Robotics team, we hosted students from Anguilla at last year's Global Robotics Challenge in Singapore. We also have established an annual cross-island hospitality training exchange program where members of the Four Seasons Anguilla came over to Cayman and trained with our teams, and our teams came over from Cayman to train with the Four Seasons Anguilla team to improve their management, culinary, and general hospitality skills and getting exposure to a different island in the process. We may have a little bit of disagreement of whether Anguilla or Cayman is the culinary capital of the Caribbean, but we'll just say it's in the family. DART's confidence in Anguilla is strengthened not only by the economic performance of the property, but also by the commitment demonstrated by the government to the island's infrastructure. That includes the new airport terminal, which we can see coming out of the ground, the new parking, which is already established, the future runway extension, and the new ferry terminal. And through MOUs, the government ensures that new investors like DART coming to the island give back to the community and contribute to social projects, such as the Lansam Bowl Cultural Center redevelopment, which is a true partnership with the government of Anguilla and Northwest Anguilla Property Holdings and DART, and the Kenneth B. DART Foundation, of which we get our funding from for these social and community projects. The Lansam Bowl Cultural Center project is the rebuilding of a landmark and long-standing community place where people have and will gather for concerts, the arts, carnivals, and more for years to come. Today we sign this MOU with the commitment to the redevelopment of the Lansam Bowl Cultural Center, which we drove by today, and it looks fantastic. And above and beyond this project, with our long-term perspective, we are committed to delivering on the continued economic growth of the island and on our commitment to the community. Premier, ministers, we are grateful for the opportunity to work alongside you to collectively take the island of Anguilla from strength to strength. On behalf of Northwest Anguilla Property Limited and our owner, Ken DART, I'd like to close by sharing our vision, which has guided us over the decades. We create places, spaces, and opportunities that enhance lives today and for future generations, and we look forward to doing so here in Anguilla today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jackie. And we must again place on record our gratitude to you and your team for all the work that has been done so far in relation to the MOU itself, your continued investment in the Four Seasons property, as well as the social contribution to the Lansing Bowl Cultural Center. Thank you so much. And now, the moment that we've been waiting for.
No. I think everybody else has covered the territory very, very well. I guess the only thing I would add, is Mark and Jackie and I have all had the privilege of working for the Dart family for decades, and that I can personally attest to the fact that wherever Dart has been operating, I think we have sort of lifted the tide. And Ken and his family have consistently demonstrated an interest and a commitment and a follow-through on doing things that benefit places where we have significant operations. We started in Michigan, and we have been a big presence in mid-Michigan, both in terms of our business presence and philanthropic presence for 60, 70 years now. We've got a 30-year plus track record in Cayman. I'm glad that Minister Hughes was toured by Jackie and was able to see some of the tangible evidence of things that we have done there. So we're absolutely thrilled to now have a touch point here in Anguilla. We look forward to increasing that touch point, and want to personally thank the Premier and members of Cabinet for working with us, I think in a very positive way to get to what is a very momentous occasion here today to sign the MOU. So thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Yes, thank you, Jim. So as I was saying, the moment that we've all been waiting for, the official signing of the MOU between the Government of Anguilla and NW Anguilla Property Limited. Drum roll, please. Great. Thank you, everybody. We just want to express our thanks to everybody for being here. And I also want to extend a special thank you to the members of the National Investment Committee and all persons who have been involved in the MOU negotiations and discussions, those who rendered advice, reviewed the documents, everybody who gave an input. Thank you so very much for all your efforts in getting us to this point. We're going to open the floor now for questions from members of the media. So over to you. Yes.
Good afternoon. James Harrigan from the Anguilla newspaper. A question to the Premier. You mentioned that there are significant differences in this new MOU in comparison to the older one. And you spoke about the benefits to the people of Anguilla. Do you care to mention a few of those benefits?
Yes, certainly. And thank you for the question. So when we came in, we said there had to be two specific clauses in any MOU. One would be that there had to be a social contribution that was stated in the MOU. Previous MOUs would state that within 6 months of the signing of an MOU, that the developer and the Minister of Finance would have a discussion regarding social education, sports, or cultural projects, and these were never followed up on. So we said it had to be stated specifically in the MOU. And in this case, it did, and it does. And that's regarding the Lansing-Bowl Cultural Center, where you'll see that there is a commitment of $5 million to developing that. And that, as the Minister Hughes said, is the highest social contribution that has been given by any developer. And so we want to thank DOT and Northwest Anguilla Properties for seeing the necessity for that in Anguilla. Second one is that if the developer uses foreign contractors, because there's sometimes there's need for foreign contractor if it's specialized work that Anguillian contractors usually doesn't do. If they use local contractors in the project, that there has to be money put in escrow, or there has to be a bond, or there has to be a signed something signed that says that if that foreign contractor leaves Anguilla without paying the local contractors, that there's money there to pay them. Because we found in the past that foreign contractors have left Anguilla owing Anguillian subcontractors millions of dollars, and it's difficult to collect. And we've seen where there have been threats to, block access to properties because local contractors were not able to get paid. So we felt that that was unacceptable, and we made arrangements for that. The other thing that we have done in this is for that commitment to be made by DOT and Northwest Anguilla Properties, that they're here for the long term. Usually when there's a MOU, it was for a period of 20 years, and we've allowed this one to be for 28 years. The reasoning for that is that, as Ms. Jackie said, they do renovations every 7 to 10 years, and so this means that there are at least 4 cycles of renovations, so we know we got them on the hook. So that's one of those. But Anguilla has what's called most favored nation clauses, and so anything that we do for one developer, we are obligated to do for another, and so that doesn't only apply to them, to DOT and Northwest Anguilla Properties, but to any developer that comes that meets with due diligence that they should be here in Anguilla, it would apply also. And so those are the considerations. What we have found also is that if the project runs over the $5 million, which sometimes they do because of increased cost of materials and labor, these issues, that in this case DOT will continue to pay for the project, and then we have an arrangement where they can anything over $5 million, they get back in credit. And that is something that is allowed under the Financial Audit and Administration Act. And that has been vetted through the Attorney General's chambers.
That was to be my last and final pre-planned question.
I read your mind. And we know each
Read
other.
my-
We
read
know
my
each other
mind.
too long.
Yes. Because when news broke that DART would be providing the financial, the funds for the Lansing Cultural Center, I specifically asked the Minister of Social Development the question, would they be financing the entire project? And she said, yes, the entire project. Because realized that finishing a project like that takes a lot of funds. Finishing, building is one thing, the construction is one thing, but finishing takes a lot of funds. So recently there was the ruckus in the House on the $1 token for contingencies, right? So would you say then that this $1 would be provided for as a credit to the DART in case you go over the $5 million, or is it already prescribed for extra expenses?
Yeah, and I will let the Minister for Infrastructure finish this answer. But what you find sometimes in any project, that the scope of works does not cover everything. There are some things, maybe furnishings, maybe, the minister's photograph on the wall, something like that, that is not covered under the building and handing over. So you have to have some contingency funds, and that's what the $1 head would cover. CCTV, you need cameras, things like that. If they're not covered, then those are the types of things that the $1 was put there in case. You have to make sure that, because you don't want to always have to now go back and ask, especially when there are deadlines. But Minister, did you want to have anything to add in there? Thanks.
Just to say the initial costing that we received was somewhere in the region of just under $4 million, and then was revised to $4.6 million. And we know we've all been engaged in construction, and sometimes there are overruns. Case in point, the new secondary school. Since this administration have come to office, we spent well over $35 million because what was allocated was not enough. The Blowing Point Ferry Terminal, government of Anguilla have had to inject $2 million of taxpayers' funds to get it to the finish line. So there are many instances, even in Anguilla's context, where we are funding these development projects are through the Anguilla program, where the taxpayers of Anguilla have had to inject capital. In this case, so far, the taxpayers of Anguilla have not injected in the capital. And if you think about it, the Lansing Cultural Center has been a facility that we have been wanting to be developed for decades. What we see down there is unimaginable. It's just a spectacular landmark that's going to be there for generations. But if you think about it, so far it has cost us well over 10 million EC dollars. Let us talk in our currency, over 10 million EC dollars that the taxpayers of Anguilla did not have to go into their pockets to fund. And for this, every single man, woman, and child and ant should be grateful for, because this is a significant investment. As you heard the Premier speak of 28 years of refurbishing. So it means that DART is going to be here at minimum 28 years, at minimum. And something else that I've recognized is that DART is not here just to flip real estate. Just to flip a real estate. We saw in the memorandums of agreement that was signed, the 10 memorandums of agreement that was signed from 2002 to 2008, all of them had a significant real estate component where it'll be flipping real estate. DART is here for the long haul, 28 years. And as a senior citizen in Anguilla, I don't think that I might be around 28 years. So even this memorandum is going to outlive me. So that tells you of the commitment that is being made. And I for one, is eternally grateful. And for sure, I won't be missing Carnival this year.
Yes, James, I just want to say something as well, because That $1 attracted a lot of attention that day, but there were several other items and supplemented outside $1. And I want to say here for the benefit of the listening and viewing public that this is a facility used by government over the years, that if you want to create a new position, you can put $1 in just to create a position, and the $1 is to hold it. So this is a common practice over the years that government uses and under the Act. And so there was nothing different about that day. It's just that that particular $1 seemed to have attracted a lot of undue attention. So I just wanted to know that. And rightly so, this investment of this $5 million is now, but that building is going to have to be maintained over the years to come. And therefore, there will have to be provision made for that. And so that $1, I consider it as a long-term measure so that when the time comes for refurbishments and renovations and so forth, the facility is already there. Yes.
Okay, finally, I just want to say on behalf of Anguilla and the listening public, I want to say thanks very much to DART and Northwest Development for such a wonderful contribution as the Lansing Bowl Cultural Center. And we appreciate it very much. Thank you.
I'm Elkin Richardson, independent journalist. My question is to you, Jackie. A lot has been said about the monies for the Lansing Bowl Cultural Center, but for the benefit of the listening public, I want to ask you if you and the other principals are satisfied with how your money has been spent at Lansing Bowl.
Thank you for that question. It's a very good question. The short answer is we're very satisfied, but if I even take a step back to the demolition of the existing facility, when that happened, I think, on a Saturday, one of the things that we really appreciated seeing was the community engagement and support with the demolition of the existing structure. And then the support and the pace with which the new structure commenced and then proceeded through the development process. The MOU, as you saw when we signed it, is a long and deep document that has many contractual provisions within it. One section speaks to the Lansing Bowl Cultural Center project, which was Section 5 of that agreement, which was negotiated between the parties to ensure that all elements of the project management and delivery of that facility by Northwest Anguilla Properties and DART, our teams at DART, was overseen by a representative and liaison from the government to ensure that it was completed in accordance with the expectations of the contract. We, as you've heard, have been in Cayman for over 30 years, and we understand developing on a Caribbean island, the impacts on possible cost escalations, not to mention the impact of supply from COVID, which we still feel the impacts from. So we did have a scope of works on the expectation of the amount to deliver the project, which had some amendments to it, which we discussed and agreed, that revised scope of works. Our team, led by Tom Sprandio, who many may know, I think he's almost a resident of Anguilla now, has traveled back and forth and really played an integral and hands-on part on behalf of us in overseeing the execution of that project, the engagement of the contractors in all aspects. So that was a very long-winded way to say, driving by the project today, seeing where it is, you know, you can say a lot in words, but when you see action and you see physical development and infrastructure, you look at the quality of what we see there today. The paint is starting to go on. I can already see the celebration that's going to happen for the carnival and is it the 50th anniversary? It's going to be spectacular. So we are very delighted to have committed to the project. We started early works under approval through discussions with the Premier, the Minister, and EXCO, and approval to start the early works in advance of the MOU signing. And the MOU confirms everything that each party is obligated to, and it has surpassed our expectations. And we're delighted by what we saw when we drove here today, and even more confidence in signing that MOU today based on what we've seen. Thank you.
My last question to you, Jackie, has to do with there's an area of land that lies between Savvy and the original Four Seasons. It is to be understood that that area of land has been either purchased or acquired by DOTS, and if so, could you tell us whether or not, and if so, what is the intent of that to develop that area of land?
So wherever we are, like Cayman or here, we do look at opportunities for investment and for enhancement. As Premier and Minister Hughes and Minister Hodges has said, we're not here for a quick investment and flipping. So we do look at the surrounding property, what's on the borders and opportunities. We have made some investment in adjacent land, but we don't have any clear path or intention on what we would do with it. It became available, we had the discussions, and we moved forward with the property. So it is there, it's an opportunity. When the minister visited Cayman, we have a lot of lands adjacent to our existing properties that we don't develop them. We hold them until we want a development. It needs to be developed according to the market. So we just acquired it because it's on our boundary, and we'll see what we do in the future with that as the island continues to grow. And really importantly, the infrastructure that's being put in, the occupancy, as Kahala here can say, is our occupancy waxes and wanes over the season. We have great rate at our hotels, as does the island. We could use more occupancy. So with the infrastructure, we have that confidence that that will grow over the years, and that may raise opportunities for additional amenities or infrastructure adjacent to the existing property.
Thank you. And my final question, since you acquired the Four Seasons property, I noticed that you would have known that the government of Anguilla had introduced a minimum wage that wasn't there when you purchased the property in 2022. I'm to ask if you find that fee challenging or not, the minimum wage.
I may have to defer to our Four Seasons leadership team, who really oversees the operations and management of the property.
Okay.
I do know that the team at the Four Seasons, given the performance of the Four Seasons, have and the gratuities and what they receive are very well compensated, but we're very supportive of minimum wage expectations or implementation of policies or practices or requirements that the government think is important for the people of Anguilla.
Good afternoon. My name is Niamke from Reed Anguilla. I was wondering how much money altogether has been spent so far on redeveloping the Lansing Bowl Cultural Center.
I'll defer to the minister.
We don't have that exact figure because there's still items that are in and out. I just got back today. I actually cut my trip short to be here because I thought this was very important for us and for Anguilla. But I don't have that figure, what the exact figure is. But for sure, that figure will be revealed once it's all said and done, once we have the full accounting of that figure. But I can tell you that none of the money have come from the taxpayers of Anguilla thus far. So I guess through DOT's accounting systems, you know, they'll be keen to know how much money they're spending as well. So that information can be disclosed to you thereafter.
Okay. And I was also wondering what agreement would have prompted, since the MOU's been signed today, what agreement would have prompted the fast-tracked redevelopment of the cultural center before the MOU?
A handshake, trust. There's certain persons that you can trust, but before that, we had these discussions. These discussions were had. We went through the executive council, was passed through the executive council. There was a letter of intent that was signed by DOT to say that we are committed to this. So apart from just a trust, there was a letter of intent, there was an initial MOU, and here we are today signing the full-blown MOU that captures everything, because there would have been two separate documents, but it's good to have everything in one clean document, and that is important for us. But I want you to know for sure that there's no fishy business in this.
One last question. I know that DOT is big on sustainability. What initiatives are in mind for Anguilla?
I do need Tom here for this. He's the one that's doing a lot of the sustainability initiatives. Mark, do you want to speak to this? Yeah, I can revert back to you. I know that we're looking at a lot of initiatives on the property that are sustainable-driven initiatives. I don't have them to top of mind today. That is an area of focus that our teams focus on. Possibilities, I believe, we may be looking at solar. We did a lot with the chiller plant, a lot of energy efficiencies, the water system. So we've started really with the base infrastructure that we acquired from Starwood and making sure that it was enhanced and operating optimally. And now we're looking at what additions we would do to the property.
Okay. This is the last one, no. Yeah, if there are cost overruns with the Carnival Village, the Lansing Bowl Cultural Center, do you think DART would be willing to forgive the government for that, for the overruns if there are?
We've seen very good fiscal prudence being exercised by the government and decisions being made on the scope of works as they look at what the costs are developing. I think we'll say we'd cross that bridge when we get there because we certainly don't feel that we're at that point today.
Thank you.
Premier was mentioning that it might be of interest to talk about the procurement process. Living in Cayman and working with the government of Cayman for many years on public-private partnerships, we are well aware of the procurement laws, requirement of the procurement laws, and then when you are a private company doing investments in a country, whether Cayman, Anguilla, Turks and Caicos, Bahamas, Jamaica, all countries that we've invested in, what the legal requirements are given the specific circumstances. In this situation, the provision of funding was 100% from Northwest Anguilla, from the DART group. We do, in the projects that we do, whether in Cayman, here, or elsewhere, we do go out to competitive bid because situations change, circumstances change, and it's very important for us to ensure that as a private developer, we're getting value for money, and also that the government is getting value for money as we were doing this as a private sector on the government's behalf. Our role was the project management and construction and delivery of the project to government. As such, I believe that we went out to multiple contractors for bid. We got responses. I think one of them was working on the airport facility, and I think the other declined to bid, and one of them, we did have 3 or more bids come back in that we're able to analyze. So our process was very much influenced by our longstanding company processes on procurement, which we went through as a private company, and then selected the contractor who, as you can see today, has delivered on the expectations of that contract.
Yes. Thank you very much. I know that you guys have to be wheels up shortly, so I'll turn back over to the permanent secretary and thank her for her diligence to get us to today and for chairing this session. Thank you.
Well, I think I can sum it all up by simply saying thank you to everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you to the members of the media, the directors of NW Anguilla Property Limited for, traveling so that we can do this in person. The members of the audience who have joined us today, we really appreciate your presence and your support, and we really look forward to a meaningful collaboration and continued engagement with NW Anguilla Property Limited for time to come. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a pleasant afternoon.